Looks like you guys had some
I'm not,
spicy conversations while I was gone.
I know that's some spicy. I hope I didn't get too spicy there. Being like, I know. What I was saying is that the reason it's important to not cast the net too wide in the groups that you're against is when you do, then you can't say we need to get rid of all of this group. So when I say what I'm against the people who cut the heads off baby and the people who hang gay people from cranes and throw them off roofs and everything like that, and I'm like, this group, all of it needs to go.
I totally agree.
But if you then say Muslims is who we're against, and you say all of it, then people are going to be like, "What's wrong with you? Are you a psycho? Are you that makes it easy to make it look like your group is the evil group." Which is why it's so useful to not have these overly expansive, like with this stuff, the people who are victimizing children in the trans community, the people who are trying to force their lifestyle on other people in the trans community, the people who are trying to normalize fetishes around consent violations, that needs to be completely unacceptable in society. But if I then extend that group that I'm against to anyone who's same-sex attracted, or even anyone who's gay,
You're shooting yourself in the foot, basically.
Has an alternate gender identity, then I've completely shot myself in the foot.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think what you have to understand is a lot of this comes out of like, what do we need to do to actually win? Right? It's results. It's results driven.
Well, I mean, I just think that we need to go so much harder. As I've said on Ice, we need to super ice. We need to go so much harder.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Against the fraud, against the which we talked about with the I think with the Dutch who did this, where if you were an immigrant family and one person in your family committed a crime, everyone in the entire family network was deported. That's where we need to be, because then you can get these groups to force positive behavior through group cohesion.
Yeah, because then what you could say is that they would also only vouch for people to be in the country that are not bad actors. Like they would early be like, hey, you need to deport this guy. I know he's our family member, but he's kind of a crackhead. You need to get him out of here.
Yeah. Actually, that's an even better way. You say the whole family doesn't get deported if the family is the one that reports them to police.
Yeah.
That would be an effective measure to handle this. But I think it's like we need to go further against the actual bad actors without expanding the pool of bad actors to anyone that we're suspicious of. And that doesn't mean that groups that we have suspicions about might include undercover bad actors.
Julio says it doesn't work. Why wouldn't it work?
Yeah.
It's a collective punishment. Yeah, I don't really care though, to be honest. I don't really care because it's you don't have a right to be here. It's a privilege, so I don't really care.
Exactly. The things that immigrants historically went through to be in America were absolutely grueling. The number of them that died trying to get here, the difficulty in getting here. I believe that coming to America should be difficult and should come with a period where more is expected for you within the first generation.
Julio, what are you talking about? No, because it would extend to every single person. That's obviously. What are you talking about, bro? Like, you can't be serious right now.
Obviously, the rules I'm talking about would apply to only first and second generation immigrants, and it would apply to, let's say, direct family networks. So anyone who's a brother, sister, parent of the individual in question. Is he explaining? I'm interested in knowing.
No.
I want to. But I think that this would be very effective at creating good behavior patterns, and it's important to recognize, and I think that this is very important for people to recognize, is that, and I think anyone who is an American who has lived in America knows this, that anyone of any ethnic or cultural background can fully and totally adopt American value systems. When you start to make any rule about like, this group will never be fully American, this group will never be fully American, I think that you then immediately push a number of people who are like, yeah, but I know someone of that background who's like one of the most patriotic people I know. It's better to just be like, the people who aren't fully American. Like, that's easier. But you're just like, the people who like actively and explicitly espouse our values are espouse alternate values to us. So like Hassan's not an American, right? Like the values that he expounds are clearly not American values.
It's like the opposite.
And
He's trying to sabotage America, actually.
So you said the right, a Gaijin is always a Gaijin. Yeah, the Japanese can say that because Japan culture is not American culture.
It fucks shit up once you start, because you create that dissonance, kind of like what Malcolm was saying. You create a situation where it's like, well, that's not my experience, and once somebody says that, now it's like, now you're losing people on your side by over.
Yeah, I would bet every single person here knows one person of one of those backgrounds that everyone said, that some people on the right, like the extremists would say will never be fully American, who is like the most American, wholesome person you've ever met. Yeah, all of you know some Hispanic guy, some Muslim guy, some recent, immigrant group, some Nigerian guy, and because everybody knows somebody like that, when you make these alternate statements, you kick out the vast majority of people who aren't being just like performatively conservative.
Also, Malcolm, my mom said that in the app, there's a plus button at the top that you can use to increase the font size.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, she just came in and told me to tell you.
Rhinos? No, it's about winning, you guys. If you kick out everyone who doesn't have every one little good, we've got to. It's existentially about winning. Do you have any idea what the left will do if they win again? Do you have any idea how bad it will be? Like the scale of evil that we might be facing right now. The scale of it is now normal within leftist circles to say that. Well, we should be doing election fraud. Like, we should be trying this. Like, they did a post interview with Kamala Harris about like what she thought she did wrong and what she should have pushed more. And she started going on about how one of the things I should have pushed more is we should have changed how voting works. We should have stuffed the Supreme Court, like changed the norms around how many Supreme Court people we can have. Like, you guys don't get the scale of this. This isn't a fucking internet game. We're in this for the species, boys and girls. Okay? If we lose this battle, America is the most important country on earth. I'm sorry, it is. If we lose America, it is so fucking.
Yeah.
And worse, the people we're losing them to. You've spent your entire life fighting against the creepy sex pest leftists. Okay? You've spent your life fighting against a DNC controlled by the Destinies, okay? You don't know what is up when you have a DNC controlled by the Mondamis and the Hassans. You don't know how bad things can get with the new face of the left.
How did this happen? Because it was, especially New York, it's just so wild to me that like after 9/11 and everything, like if you went back and you told people like right after 9/11 that this would be the state that we're in, dude, no one would believe it. Like, it's actually.
They'd be like, "How could that? What do you? Why would anyone think that was a good idea? That seems like a terrible idea."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you look at like the Hillary Clinton speeches about how immigration is so bad and how we need to lock down our borders and how the early Biden speeches about this. They were all against this. They just changed when they felt that they couldn't win American voters anymore, and they're like, well, let's try to get other voters if Americans who have our politics aren't breeding. I think when we look at the wider political fight right now, how interesting it's gotten, because you had the two core factions on the left that were fighting, right? One faction was the LGBT, polyamory, whatever faction. And then the other faction was the Islamist, let's destroy Western civilization, 9/11 is awesome faction, right? Like, we're seeing now that faction is clearly winning, right? Like the other faction just doesn't have a chance, and they're also not breeding, so they're not really going to exist in future populations at a very large amount. So not that important. And I suspect we're going to see this starting in other countries as well. When we saw in the UK, when the leftist factions won, do you remember this video? And they went up and they started giving their speech in some like. I think it was like Pakistani or something. And that was the first language that they decided to give their winning speech in. This was the Green Party, right? These parties have been captured. You look at the right, What's the fight we're having within right-wing politics? Or we had. I mean, I think it's basically over at this point. I think that the active players, there were really two active players. People said, bro, white people aren't breeding. No, white people are breeding very well. If you are unaware, the black fertility rate in the United States is below the white fertility rate as of last year. In fact, native blacks in the United States only have a fertility rate of 1.3. Most of the black fertility rate comes from first-generation immigrants. White fertility rates, if you're talking about wealthy, tech-forward countries, the white fertility rate, other than the Jewish fertility rate in terms of like wealthy, high-tech countries, is like the best on earth. We typically have fertility rates of around like 1.6 when we are wealthy and high-tech. You don't see those numbers anywhere else. Anywhere else. Latin America is well below that at this point. Latin America, despite being poorer, Southern Europe. I mean, I guess if you consider Catholics white, whatever, their fertility rate is like well below Northern Europe's fertility rate, despite Northern Europe being significantly wealthier, which typically depresses fertility rates. You look at like Muslim countries. You know, Iran has a lower fertility rate than the United States. You know,
Wait,
Turkey has a lower fertility rate than the United States. Like, guys, like Muslims do not have good fertility rates unless you put them in, it's the same with Catholics. Catholics have terrible fertility rates unless you put them in Protestant majority countries like America, or it's the same as Muslims.
Really?
You put a Muslim in a non-Muslim majority country in their fertility. Yeah, in America. So we talk about how bad the Catholic fertility rates are in Southern Europe and in Latin America. In America, Catholic fertility rates. Do you know what the lowest fertility rate state or protectorate is in the United States?
What's that?
Puerto Rico, the most Catholic one. So it's where Catholics are a majority. But when you take Catholics and you make them a minority, where they are in other states, so specifically Hispanic Catholics, those are the only ones that have good fertility rates. Their fertility rate shoots up. Being a minority really helps your fertility rate.
I think I know
the feeling of persecution helps your fertility rate. That's why Jews have such a high fertility rate, is my supposition.
Hey, Gravy, thank you for the raid. I saw you were playing I saw you were playing a tabletop. Hope you had a good one. Thank you.
Like Mormon Judas. Yeah, wait, so what were we talking about? The fertility rates. Yeah, whites are actually, like, if you were worried about, because you've got to keep in mind, if a group is able to maintain a high fertility rate just because they're poor, they're not really relevant to the future of humanity, okay? We all know that people who live in desperate poverty have a super high fertility rate. If that has been your community's hack to a high fertility rate, then your community is not going to be relevant in like the future geopolitics of the world, right? Or anything like that, right? The groups that matter, like when I'm looking at groups that are like who's actively in the game right now, it's groups that are decent fertility rate and also technologically and economically productive. Like that's what you need to be relevant, right? Like, okay, like let me put it this way. Suppose Somalia has a super high fertility rate. It's like 5 kids, or maybe even higher than that per woman. If Israel decided that they just didn't want Somalia to be here anymore, okay, in like 5 years, they could have that taken care of. Like, having high tech is absolutely everything in the civilization game.
You need to have some sort of a fertility rate plus tech, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're really looking at the groups to be paying attention to with like high fertility rate, it goes like, it goes Jews, Protestants, then after Protestants, way below Catholics, and then after them, I'd probably put this group at more worth watching than Catholics because they're higher tech than Catholics, is the Japanese actually have a fairly decent fertility rate was the East Asian populations. And then like everyone else is just like completely crashing.
Why is it that tech makes like higher tech and higher money makes people have less fertility rate? What's the reason for
Somebody said, I thought Japan had a big fertility problem. Japan had the fertility rate of like 1.3 or 1.4 or something, which is, I think it's 1.3. Is that it right now? But that's like Oh, it's 0.9 last year. It's still like very high for the region. It's like way higher than like Taiwan or Korea or China. Like they're absolutely mogging China.
Mm.
So it's super low compared to Protestants. Like, yeah, of course, they're getting absolutely crushed. Like if you look at the fertility rate in like New Zealand or Australia, like you're like, oh my God, like in terms of the technologically productive countries in like the Pacific theater, the Australia and New Zealand are going to be the dominant ones in the future, with their fertility rate, assuming they don't take in too many immigrants that are able to maintain high fertility rates just by having habits that make them poor, which increases fertility rates. But anyway, it's talking about the left versus the right faction. So we on the right, we had this battle as well. And the two active and living factions were the Groypers and the Nerd right? Like those were the main ones. And the Groypers just like completely retreated and went to the left, right? Like Fuentes has come out as a Democrat at this point. And people like the Groypers blew themselves up. Yeah, there was a period there where it looked like Nick could become politically relevant. And somebody said the Groypers aren't real. Yeah, they're largely astroturfed, but they were getting some inroads. And it's not just largely astroturfed; they're largely third worlders. A lot of the anti-Semitic sentiment you see online is actually just third worlders. There's not a lot of actual anti-Semitic sentiment in the United States. Yeah, so the Groypers. Why did the Groypers fail as hard as they did? I think the biggest reason is that Nick never built up a base of lieutenants. So if you look at the nerd right? The nerd right doesn't have a central spear point. Like, Asmongold might be the biggest, but he's not so much larger than somebody like Nugsanor, that you would never you would say, oh, he just completely owns it, right? You look at the nerd right, you got Tectone,
On
Nugsanor,
YouTube though, doesn't he? Isn't he a lot
You-
bigger on YouTube? Like
who? Asmongold?
Asmon, because doesn't Asmon videos reach pretty
Oh,
hard
it's
on
astonishingly big. He reaches millions of people a day. He probably does better numbers than CNN. Or Rev says Desu, or the intellectual sphere of the nerd right built itself up in a very collaborative way. Nux, for example, came on our show when he's like significantly bigger than us. There's no reason for him to be nice to us. There's no reason for him to come on our show. Whereas you didn't see this with the Fuentes faction. He was not really concerned with lifting up the other players in the space or building a community. He was concerned with building an obedient army that followed his directives. But he said Asmongold does close to $1 billion on good months. That's crazy, but I could totally see that. And I think that's why their faction got crushed so hard. The left, I think also, I'm trying to think of how the Islamists, so even before they outnumbered, let's say like the trans left, how did they so successfully outmaneuver them?
I mean, it's because they have a built-in mechanic where the more society doesn't like you, the more power you have within their thing. You have like an inverse, like enmity. They have like an enmity mechanic or something.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. That's the joke, JK. Catholics be about Protestants effing Christianity when the problem has always been Catholicism. The Great Schism was Catholic driven. This is true. The people involved in the Great Schism did not want to schism from the church. They explicitly said, I don't want to schism from the church. I just need like X or Y. The Protestant Reformation was largely driven by Catholic corruption. I mean, like the Henry VIII situation was completely Catholic corruption. Now we're seeing the Catholics decry the Vatican once again. Yeah. Nick Smiley. Was Nick Smiley the guy who was nice to me early on? I don't know. I like Malcolm is hit or miss for me. No, I think. What am I lying about? Do you think I'm lying about Henry VIII? Oh, Nick Fuentes is lying. Okay. But I think the other thing about the left that really hurt, let's call it the Gooner left, that really hurt the Gooner left or the poly left, like the orgy left, because they do orgies all the time. Oh my God. Do you remember when there was a post about PrEP and the left was like, because they were like, we need to stop giving this drug that like it's really only useful to gay people who want to have non-monogamous sex.
Wait, what?
Wait, do you not know the whole PrEP situation?
No, what?
Okay, we'll get to the PrEP situation in 2 seconds. Before I talk about PrEP, we're going to talk about why I think they failed. I think the core reason they failed is because their mindset mentally degrades the people who hold it and makes them very unproductive, and sort of like mentally living in a jar of their own terror. So like the left had some like truly competent good warriors. ContraPoints is an example of this. ContraPoints, I like ContraPoints videos. I think ContraPoints does a great job of making their arguments. I think that ContraPoints could significantly influence or be a major player in the cultural battle. But ContraPoints stopped producing content, or stopped producing any form of regular content. And their content per release is like getting the same views as like an Asmongold, but they're releasing like twice a year, right? Like, I think it's important to know when your opponent has good warriors, but the warriors that could have been the leading figure, like ContraPoints could have been a leading leftist figure to counter Hassan.
One thing I have to say there, like for the chat, you understand is like when you calculate if a person is like a good leader, doesn't mean that we're saying that they're right. It means that necessarily like, every single thing that they say is right. It means people that are like competent enough to have like an actual good argument that would actually force us to actually spend a significant amount of time to actually counter their arguments. That's what it means.
Exactly. Yeah. It's important that you do not like one. I think if you don't recognize the competent players on your opponent's side, you can't realize how incompetent the incompetent players are, and truly glory in the fact that we are fighting a Hassan. Hassan is a fucking idiot.
Like, here, let me put things into context, right? So, like, for example, if the person was competent, I'd have to sit there and I have to debate them and I have to like literally fight. I'd have to duel them, basically, and we'd have to have an exchange, and I'd have to like counter their points, and I had to play for space and stuff like that. Against these retards, I just point at what they say and I win. Did you see? It's like not even close, basically.
It's like you literally went up there dressed like Mao, one of the most evil humans in history. Why are you doing this? Why do you think Mao is cool? Right? Like, you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to frame a newspaper article about 9/11 and put it right behind you.
Did you see the video, Malcolm? Did you see it? I posted
that the frame thing.
No, the video, the Hassan video.
Oh, I saw your picture of it.
No, it's a video. It's a video. If you click on it.
Oh, it's a. Oh, no, it's no. No, it's not. You sent me. Oh, I have to go to X. It just showed me like the.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're talking in German. Thanks. I have a video coming out on this. I absolutely must use this clip.
Yeah, here. Let me send it to you. I got you. I got you.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
There you go.
But yeah, and I'll point out, it's weird that like Hassan is like China is like socialist. China is not socialist. In a cost-adjusted fashion, even cost-adjusted, which should make it easier for China, the U.S. social program is literally 300% larger. The U.S. is 3 times as socialist as China. What makes the U.S. and China primarily different is China is fascist and anti-Western. That is what these people want. That is what he wants. That is what that entire faction wants. Yeah, Deng. Well, what's his name? Deng Xiaoping. He's, I think, one of the greatest leaders in history. I'm quite a big fan of him. Wait, Malcolm, you're a fan of a Chinese communist leader, the guy who did the Tiananmen Square massacre? And I was like, those students were being dicks, okay? We need a Deng Xiaoping in the United States. If I could only elect a Deng Xiaoping in the United States. This guy took a country that was living in abject poverty and through inducing capitalist reforms brought people, hundreds of millions of people didn't die because of him. Hundreds of millions of people were brought out of poverty for him. He did it in an authoritarian manner. People tried to push back against his reforms, like at the Tiananmen Square massacre, and he acted in a way that was non-Western. But he was not a Western leader. Trying to rule Western countries in a non-Western fashion is a bad idea, generally speaking. If you look at the net good he did for the people's lives within China by moving to the horrible system that Mao built into what China has now, which is basically fascist communism. Now, I wish he got rid of the fascism part as well, but I don't even know if that would work in China. Not all countries work with democracies. Like Iraq clearly doesn't work with a democracy. We tried that. That was a big fucking mistake.
What causes that? Is it just like a difference in base culture, nature, like a passed down nature? Like what causes that? Like to be
so we have a video on this which goes into the question of why Arab countries have in their entire history only had, I think, 2 instances of a democracy that lasted more than one lifetime. Now, note, there are 36 Arab majority countries. Okay, this is actually wild that they appear completely unable to hold democracies. Because if you look at the same period and you look at Protestant majority countries, there have only been, I think, about 3 that weren't democracies. And those were fairly short periods. So the question is why do Protestants almost always form democracies? And why do Arabs almost never form democracies? And the answer is because different groups are different. And that's a beautiful thing, honestly. When the leftist is like, how dare you say that different groups are different? I'm like, I thought you guys were like, diversity is good. Variation is good. I'm here being like, and I appreciate that, and they should be able to live their own way in their own environment because, their way of living may be different from our way of living. Like, look at your Arab majority countries that are good, right? Like they have like broadly high quality lifestyles across their countries. They are all run like dictatorships. If you look at the Arab countries that are the worst to live in, they are all the most democratic ones.
So is it just nature then? Like, is it like inherited nature, just like genetics, I guess, like that causes this?
I'm gonna say I don't think that I need to make a stance on that. I'm gonna say it is because that stance can be easily countered. It can easily be countered if I say this is because of genetics, if this is because of culture, if this is because of, but if I just say Arab majority countries do not seem to be able to hold stable democracies at the same rate as Protestant majority countries, or Protestant majority countries seem to drift towards democracy, Arab majority countries seem to drift away from democracy. Those are completely inarguable statements. Or that Arab majority countries that have the highest quality of living are closer to dictatorships, whereas Arab majority countries that have recently flirted with democracy, like let's say Egypt, have lower quality lifestyles. That's also just a demonstrably true thing. Like Egypt and Iraq would be like more democratic Arab countries. Like the UAE, Qatar would be less democratic majority countries. And I don't need to make a stance as to why. I can just say that they're different, and that's fine. And if you erase the way that they're different, that is cultural genocide. You are saying, I want to erase the way that they are different from the Protestant majority West. Now, note here, the reason I don't mention Catholic countries here is Catholic countries actually have a big history of like fascism or socialism or communism. They're stuff. And sort of like I won't even say a middling ground.
It's interesting how so much of it does seem based around the religion, about how it seems like the foundation of like what happens, at least the odds of it. Yeah. Right. Like rather than it being based on like other characteristics, that religion seems like the foundation.
Hold on, I'm gonna look up for the prep conversation because you're about to get schooled in the craziest stuff you've ever learned.